Can your heartbeat influence your brain and how you feel? Find out here today on Jimmy Rants. Click on that little box down there in the corner. It'll take you straight to IGTV for today's episode. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you can engage live in the content. You got to go follow me. I'm over on Instagram. I am at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you are there, engage live in the content. We're here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on Instagram. We also simulcast live over here on my Facebook page. Hey, Mark just got here, as well as Rena. Thank you guys for being here today as well. We also simulcast over on my YouTube channel. So go over there and check us out. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live here on Instagram, you can watch it on replay. Go to IGTV as soon as this episode is over, and you go straight to it. IGTV lets you see the full episode right here on Instagram. We also throw the past episodes up over on YouTube, so type in a keyword Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. Finally, you can go over to the official website for this show. It's at jimmyrants.com. And once you are there, you can listen to all the past episodes, watch the videos there. And if you like what I do here, definitely go and click on that Patreon link, and a donation of any amount would be greatly appreciated. Okay, you guys, I've been doing a lot of Jimmy Rants episodes lately. A little off the beaten path, but I think some good stuff. And today is no different, because a lot of people are feeling emotions, fear, anxiety, and all the like. And they're having those things happen to them physiologically, showing up in their body. And of course, a lot of people say, well, it's kind of the state of their nutrition can impact that. It's the state of how they handle stress and to be able to have the resiliency to bounce back. There's so many things that influence that. But I have found an article here that may give another perspective that maybe you haven't heard about before. This is from a website called Quanta Magazine, Quanta Magazine. And the title is How Your Heart Influences What You Perceive and Fear. We consider the brain the very center of who we are and what we do. It's the ruler of our senses, the master of our movements, the generator of thought, and the keeper of memory. But the brain is also rooted in a body, and the connection between the two goes both ways. If certain internal receptors indicate you have hunger, for instance, you are driven to eat. If it indicates cold, we dress more warmly. Of course, all of these things happen in the brain, and we think the brain initiates it. But watch this. Decades of research have also shown us that all of these sensations do much more than just alert our brain to the body's immediate concerns and needs. As the heart, lungs, gut, and other organs transmit information to the brain, they affect how we perceive and interact with our environment in surprisingly profound ways. Some recent studies of the heart in particular have given scientists new insights into the role that the body's most basic processes play in defining our experience of that world. In the late 19th century, the psychologist William James, as well as a physician named Carl Lang, proposed that emotional states are the brain's perception of certain bodily changes in response to a stimulus. That a pounding heart or shallow breathing gives rise to emotions like fear or anger rather than the other way around. Researchers have found ever since then many examples of physiological arousal leading to emotional arousal, but they wanted to delve deeper. So here's a funny thing, like people want to talk about emotional responses, things like fear and anxiety, and they want to put the focus on your brain. Now scientists are understanding it's not just something that deals with your brain. It actually is something physically happening in the body, which we're going to focus in on the heartbeat here today, that how your heartbeat is directly related to and influencing your brain and your emotional state. Have you ever heard of anything like this before? I would dare say most people have not. And it's definitely going to be revolutionary if they could do something with this information and help patients that deal with anxiety, deal with fear, deal with other kind of mental health, psychological types of issues. The heartbeat provides the perfect means to check this out. Cardiac activity can be divided into two phases. So you got the systole, when the heart muscle contracts and pumps out blood, followed by the diastole, when it relaxes and refills with blood. Now you may know this as systolic and diastolic on your blood pressure. So when you have blood pressure run, you get the systolic number and the diastolic number. Beginning in the 1930s, scientists found that systole dampens pain and curbs the startle reflexes. So when the heart muscle is contracting and pumping out blood, that is when you are basically dampening down the pain response and you're not really startled. Further work traced this effect to the fact that during systole, pressure sensors send signals about the heart's activity to those inhibitory regions of the brain. Are you getting this? That at certain points in that millisecond that the heart is beating and pumping in, pumping out, pumping in, pumping out, pumping in, pumping out, that matters when it comes to your perception of things like pain and the like. This may be useful because while the brain must constantly balance and integrate internal and external signals, you cannot pay attention to everything at once, according to Offer Pearl, a postdoctoral research fellow at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai in New York. Experiments have even showed that people were more likely to forget words that were presented exactly at the systole than the words that they saw and encoded during the rest of the cardiac cycle. Is this fascinating? So Sarah Garfinkel is a neuroscientist at Brighton and Sussex Medical School in England. She says, I really see the senses like a seesaw. She's one of the lead investigators on memory work. When you're sensing something from internally, then it dampens down processing of external signals. And when your heartbeat is going, then it's just loading up the seesaw to one side or the other. The heart's inhibitory effects were demonstrated once again in some work that was published in May of 2020 in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. And when people were presented with a barely detectable electrical stimulus to their finger, they were more likely to perceive it during diastole and miss it during systole. Isn't that interesting? The exact same stimulus, and if the blood was pumping out of the heart, you didn't feel it, but if the blood was pumping into the heart, you did feel it. Like, did you even realize that some of your perceptions and things that you think and feel and react are all predicated on this physical response that's happening in your heart? Moreover, participants with greater neural responses to cardiac activity were less sensitive to the stimulus. Ezra Al is a doctoral student at the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Scientists, was the lead investigator of this study. Ezra says it's fascinating that even in this very millisecond range, our perception can change just like that. The team noted how the heart might be loading up the seesaw, in this case, during systole as the heart pushes blood into the rest of the body. It's possible to feel your pulse in your fingertips. It's advantageous for the brain to cancel out those signals since they don't provide new information about the environment, but in doing so, slight touch sensations might actually get suppressed. What doesn't seem to get suppressed, though, is fear. This is so fascinating because right now, there are so many people walking around in abject fear. And I wonder how many of those people have what I'm about to share with you going on, and it's not anything else other than that. Now, obviously, there's other things that could factor into why you sense fear more than at other times, and why some people aren't fearful hardly at all right now, and there's other people that are extremely fearful. I posted a video last night on my social media pages of this woman in a Walmart who was an older woman. She was wearing an N95 mask, and she was chastising this young mom and her very little kids. And that woman basically said, "You're all gonna die," right in front of these kids. And it's like her fear overpowered her sensibility to know that that was the wrong thing to do. Let's get into fear. In 2014, Garfinkel and her colleagues showed that the processing of fear and threatening stimuli was not inhibited at systole. When systole activated inhibitory brain regions, it also activated the amygdala, an area implicated in the experience of fear. The researchers found that during systole, people tended to perceive fearful faces more intensely. This was not the case for faces expressing a neutral emotion. Study participants rated those as less intense during the systole. That processing seemed to get the usual dampening treatment. What's most striking about fear is that it breaks through, says Garfinkel. It's impervious, this inhibitory effect of the heart. And this is likely to be an adaptive response to the greater number of systoles that fear provokes. If your heart is beating really strong and fast, and you're in a fearful state, you don't want to be sensitive to pain. You want to be able to run over broken twigs and glass to escape the threat, but you want to be hyper alert to a threat in the environment. Fear is something that can help you survive. And that's true. Fear is there by design to help you survive. And it's kind of like those moms, for example, who their kid is underneath a car and they lift up the car and can get the kid out. It's those kinds of kind of superhuman things where this very process comes into play, and the pain that would be associated with trying to do that is subsided. Now, do you feel the pain later? Maybe. Garfinkel recently found that this link to fear is even stronger than they even realized. As described in a preprint now under review for publication, she and her team, listen to this, you guys, conditioned test subjects to associate some shapes with a mild electric shock, and then presented them with those shapes as well as more neutral ones during systole and diastole. The expectation was that people would always exhibit more fear of the shapes associated with the shock. Instead, what the participants responded with more fearfully to all the shapes that were presented at the systole. That overshadowed them learning initially what's associated with shock and not shock. In other words, they had no sensory perception of it because of that. There's something inherent about the thing that is presented when the heart is beating, which is much more fearful. And it's so strong, such a strong effect, it really blew my mind. The heartbeat signal is shown to have an intrinsic threatening value, which kind of slows down unlearning of threat, according to Hugo Critchley, a psychiatrist at the same medical school and another author of this study. So adaptations to responses other than fear may also have built on this coupling of heartbeat and inhibition. There was a paper published in Cognition in March of 2020 where researchers found that eye movements occur much more often at systole, while we fix our gaze on a target more often during diastole. During rapid eye movements, the brain momentarily blinds us so that we don't see our surroundings jump. We seem to time that sampling of the visual environment to coincide with moments of inner quiescence. Systole is the point when you're least sensitive to the world, when processing tends to be dampened down, when the inner world rules. So it makes sense to couple your eye movements and be blind when you don't mind as much about the outside world. Critchley, Garfinkel, and others have found that systole is more likely to enhance the fear processing in those people who already have anxiety. Researchers now hope that this work will guide therapies for certain phobias, as well as post-traumatic stress disorder. And if you can change how threatening those stimuli are by presenting them at different phases of that cardiac cycle, then you can get people out of anxiety states in one form or another. I would love it, if they could somehow make this real world applicable, where you can come up with practical strategies for helping people overcome some of their fears and get them and get their headspace right. Other scientists are studying how information sampling and sensory processing, as well as behavior, might be adaptively coupled to other physiological rhythms, such as breathing and digestion. What's readily apparent in that work, too, is that the world isn't just a stable thing. How we perceive it is based on your body. And like I said at the very beginning, so many people are dealing with anxiety and fear. We're seeing it play out in the way that they're behaving in public. People are basically showing that they're not able to handle the stress that's going on right now, and that they are in a state of fear. And some of that isn't that they weren't fearful before or weren't showing some of these signs before, but now that this stimulus has been accelerated, what if they had this stuff, like I mentioned here in this Jimmy Rants here today, what if they had this going on? And it's actually their body itself. Like, think about all the processes in the body and how those processes in and of themselves impact your brain, which impact how you feel, how you think, how you believe, how you react emotionally, things like fear and anxiety and depression. This could be an exciting area of research that I do hope they look further into. And it makes you wonder if that's just the heartbeat with the systolic and diastolic. What if there are other things that are associated with the breathing in versus breathing out? Do you perceive things differently there? Like, I don't want to get too deep with this, but think about what they're discovering here. That how you act, how you feel, how every part of your life works depends on that body and how you're responding. Here's the other thing. What about a sick body? What about a disease state? What about those people with high blood pressure? Does that change things? And yeah, Holly says, what about heart rate variability? Exactly. Obviously, heart rate variability plays a huge role in this because you've got those people who are more in a sympathetic state than they are a parasympathetic state. I think it's directly related, Holly. Thank you for bringing that up. HRV is one of those things not enough people are aware of, but if you know your heart rate variability and you're able to get more in that balance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic state, then you've found that nirvana, and I think it helps to calm things down. If you're way too far on one way or the other, it's detrimental. So finding that balance, but it makes you marvel at how our bodies are in such symbiosis with the things going on mechanically in the body and how it impacts your brain and how you look at the world, perceive things like pain and fear. Like this was just incredible to me. And if you missed the beginning of this Jimmy Rants, there's some new research in quantamagazine.com if you want to go read it, how your heart influences what you perceive and fear. And it's talking about physically in the body, things like your heartbeat, that when you're pumping blood out of the heart, it makes you think and feel in one way. And when you're pumping it into the heart, it makes you think and feel in another way. Like, did you even realize that we were so tightly controlled like that, that your physical body can impact your brain and how you think? It's interesting when you kind of stop and think about this in deeper terms, and trying to figure out why you freak out at certain times and why you're pretty cool at other times. This could be part of the answer, but I definitely want to see what you guys have to say. Going to come over here to you guys on Instagram first, then over to Facebook, finally over to YouTube. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. Do you know what is a good HRV? So Holly, I have one of those monitors, and those of you that don't know about HRV, heart rate variability, you can put this strap on your chest. Just look up HRV on HRV monitor on Amazon. You'll find a few good ones out there. The Polar S7, I believe is what it's called, is one of the better ones. But it's basically this thing that you strap on to your chest, and it's right there. And you just sit and you do kind of a 1 minute session of you just relaxing, and it will give you this readout. There's a lot of different apps. I don't want to necessarily endorse any of them, but there's a lot of really good ones out there. And you can see whether you're in a very stressful state, whether you're in a very chilled state, which is not good. So the stressful is sympathetic, the very chilled is parasympathetic, and you're looking kind of for that balance between the two. You don't want to be too stressed, you don't want to be too chilled, you kind of want to be right in that middle. So the best HRV is kind of in that middle, in that balance, Holly, because you don't want to be so chill that you can't perceive anything, or so stressed that you think everything is the end of the world. So it's definitely something worth looking into. Definitely look up the work of, I know Ben Greenfield talks a lot about HRV, so go look up his work. His podcast co-host is Dr. Jay Wiles, right here on Instagram. I know he talks a lot about HRV. Dr. John Lemansky and I used to talk about it when we did a podcast called the Keto Hacking MD podcast. I think we did a few episodes just on HRV. If you want to go back and listen to some of that, llvlc.com, you can look in the archives of the Keto Hacking MD podcast to see some of that. But if you're not testing HRV, it could definitely be something that would track. And it's probably a precursor to a lot of these things we're talking about in this study of the heartbeat does impact your emotional state and how you think and feel. Thank you, Instagram. Let me pop over here to Facebook, see what you guys have to say. Welcome in, guys. Thanks for being here. See a lot of people here. Nobody wanted to touch this one, huh? It's a little bit of a complex thing to wrap your head around, that you perceive things simply because of something that happens physiologically in your body. But it's really fascinating. I think this is cutting edge of the future of what's going to happen when it comes to mental health. And think about all the people dealing with some challenges right now mentally because of the stress of everything that's happening, and people trying to assimilate the information that's coming in, and the uncertainty, and then the fear that has been stoked kind of by the news media coverage of everything that's happening. And I wonder, those people who are most fearful, if this is hitting them harder than they even realize. All right, let's see what YouTube, has to say. Maria says you're inspirational. Well, thank you. This one didn't have very many people wanting to engage, but that's okay. Not everything necessarily needs engagement. Sometimes you just need to hear the information. Shirley did say, I'm normally a pretty chill person. My heart rate averages around 60 to 70. Yeah, I don't know about the heart rate. I definitely want to see some more research as it relates to heart rate. I tend to have one of those lower heart rates as well. I know people in my life that tend to have like 90 to 100 heart rate. So I wonder if the speed of the heart beating impacts this at all. Like are people who have a higher heart rate, where it's going do, 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 versus the people that have a lower heart rate, do, 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 do. I don't know. Is there a difference? And maybe the people with the faster heart rate deal with more of this anxiety, and those who have the lower have less. I don't know. It's certainly things that I think researchers could vet out a little more and see what's happening there. All right, you guys, I have plenty of time left, so if you have a question, I can go ahead and take some questions. I know Fridays we do Ask Me Anything, but if you happen to have some questions you want to throw at me, I've got plenty of time left in this show. I want to address something that I'm noticing even here doing this Jimmy Rants. And I think we need to be cognizant of this. Those of you that are partakers in content of people you like and influencers, and then those of you doing content yourself. There is something going on social media. I have exactly 3 people, according to what I can see here, watching this live on Instagram. Can I tell you, 4 months ago, that was probably 45 to 60 people, pretty regularly. And so something is definitely happening. I know that there are screwy things happening with Instagram, and there's also things happening over here on Facebook. Now, this is one of the reasons I made this show go live at 11 a.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday, is I wanted people to know, okay, I will be here at those times unless I tell you otherwise. And so if you come into this expecting to see me pop up on a push notification, you're not always getting it. And yeah, Kat is over here. It's crazy. WTF. People aren't getting the notifications. And I want to kind of use this as an open forum too. If you're noticing this, not just with me, but other influencers you're trying to pay attention to and see their content, and it seems like they're not doing any content. I can tell you there have been many people that have written me lately, I don't know why you stopped doing content. You always did good content. And I'm like, I do content every day, like tons of content. Adina O'Hare says, I'm watching, it's good info. Thank you. But not everybody's getting all the content, and I'm wondering what in the world is going on. I do know that I have been shadow banned on Facebook, and I think I'm starting to get shadow banned over on Instagram, which this is a real problem. I did a whole post this morning, you guys, about Facebook and how Mark Zuckerberg went on to or gave testimony before a congressional hearing yesterday saying, oh, we're the most ethical, open, and honest, non-censoring platform on the planet, and we welcome all views, unless you are for hydroxychloroquine, apparently. Kat says, unless I remember it's 11 a.m., I can miss it. Yeah, that is the problem. But these social media companies, you guys, they are taking risks because they're not even trying to hide the bias anymore of what they want you to see and not want you to see. And I know right now I'm live on 3 different social media platforms, all 3 of which have shown they have no trouble taking things offline that they find objectionable, to which I say, who gets to decide what is valid for people to see and what's invalid? Obviously, if you are inciting violence, if you are spreading hate speech, or you're doing some kind of pornography, those things I think we all agree are completely inappropriate and should be blocked and removed and all the rest. But just a differing opinion, even if it runs counter to what is the mainstream, a differing opinion alone should not be invalidated. And yet we're seeing that. We're seeing it again and again and again. And I don't know. I mean, is everybody okay with that? Like, at the end of the day, I think what we want is more information so that people can make decisions for themselves and then decide for themselves. Like, I don't understand why, who are we trying to protect? Who exactly is supposed to be the victim of this information? The last time I checked, information does not kill anybody. And we need to put the onus of personal responsibility back on people again. If you take away people's personal responsibility and instead abdicate it to some authority that says, this is the way it is, we're not in America anymore. I don't mean to be so blunt, but yeah, I do. Because I sense that there is something major afoot going on that is not good if you are a fan of the United States of America. And if we don't stand up and notice this right now, then we're going to wake up one day and it's no longer going to be the same country that we lived in 1 year ago, 6 months ago for that matter. So it's happening. It's real. And of course, when you start talking this way, there's some people that don't want to hear it. Oh, that sounds like a conspiracy theory. And I'm most certainly not trying to spread anything conspiracy. But I can tell you, as a content provider, 6 people watching me live on an Instagram when it used to regularly be 10 times that. There's 8 people over here live on Facebook. It used to be 80 to 100 people. And I just started doing YouTube live, so I have no gauge by what it should be, but there's 10 people watching over there. So it's like something is going on here. And if we don't wake up, we will have these things controlling everything we see and do. And that's concerning to me. Is it you? At the end of the day, we're all trying to be exposed to information, and it's just like anything else. You get one side, you get the other side, and you kind of assimilate what you think. But right now, you're getting one side, and the other side is being rejected. And what if there's something in that other side that has an element of truth to it that could then coalesce with the side that you're hearing from, or counter something there that says, no, that's wrong, this is right, and then you come to a consensus of what is right. This is deeply, deeply concerning. Rachel says, I was not getting notifications for you. I had to unfollow and refollow and check all the notifications. Yeah, the same thing happened over at YouTube. So all of you who watch me on YouTube, those of you not getting the notifications, they did the same thing to me over there, Rachel. They actually changed my category from the health category over to kids. I know you're making YouTube videos now, Rachel. They did this to me. They changed the category over to kids. Kids videos, apparently you can't get notifications for. And so I'm telling everybody over here on YouTube, if you're not getting my notifications, unfollow, refollow, and then resubscribe, hit the bell again, and you'll start getting the notifications. So that's interesting. That happened over here on Instagram. But what I want to know is why? What triggered that? What did I write that would make them want to try to keep people from seeing my content? I don't know. I got no notification of it. You violated some community standard, or even if they do pull that, you violated some community standard. They never tell you what you actually did. They just say this generic phrase, and you're left to your own devices to try to figure it out. Last year, they pulled my entire YouTube channel down. They pulled it all down. And it was gone. I couldn't see it, nothing anymore. No warning, no nothing. And enough of my followers, thankfully, wrote to them and said, hey, this is legit. Where did it go? We like his content. There's nothing hateful. There's no, what happened? And finally, they brought it back after about 3 weeks. But it was just this whole idea that in a heartbeat, they just deleted the whole channel. And they do those kinds of things all the time. Guys, wake up. Social media is controlling you more than you think it does. They're letting you see what they want you to see and not much else. And you actually have to search people out that you like. Now, they still let you through, all of you watching right now. Obviously, you found my content today. But how many people would have found the content if they weren't putting these blocks in place? And again, it sounds so conspiratorial to say this. I'm not the only one this is happening to. There's a lot of people that are getting this happen to them as well. Adina says, yes, let us decide for ourselves. And that's the point. It's like, give people information, even if it runs counter to what the mainstream narrative is. Like, I don't have a problem with them saying, wear a mask, socially distance, wait for a vaccine, da-da-da. Okay, great. That's good information from your side of things. Now, let's hear people explain why they don't wear a mask, why they're trying to boost their immunity without a vaccine. You see what I'm saying? Let people have the conversation. I grew up in an America where having healthy debate and agreeing about things in common was the commonplace. I also grew up in an America where it said, I might not agree with you, but I would fight to the death your opportunity to say and believe what you want to believe. And I have a feeling in 2020, there aren't people who would be willing to die and fight for people that have an opposite view to them. That just doesn't exist anymore. That America, I think, is gone. Mojo says, I got a post taken down on Facebook for saying I was going to the lake to get some vitamin D to improve my immune system. Yeah, it's disgusting. It's like, and that's true. You can go outside and get sunshine and get lots of vitamin D, and that does boost your immunity. Like, what is wrong with that information? At the end of the day, it's true. So why are we hiding it? To what end? Guys, there is a deeper thing going on here, and I hope your eyes are being open to it. If it hasn't before now, start looking. Tracy says, I believe things have been hidden on purpose, and I'm tired of it. Well, they're hiding a lot of things. Hiding content, hiding information. And again, you talk to just average everyday people that aren't in the know and aren't paying attention about this. And, that sounds so crazy. That would never happen. You want to bet? It's happening. It's happening right now in the United States of America. And it's time we wake up. Nancy says, just FYI, I get notifications each morning for your show from YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. I had to reset notifications a while back. Yeah, and that's the thing. I suppose if you're watching this and you just happened upon this, do what Rachel and what Nancy have said, and even here on YouTube. Unfollow, unsubscribe, and then refollow, resubscribe, and click on getting notifications, and that should fix the issue. The problem is, why do you have to do that? And what's to say they don't mess with the category again so that those notifications don't come through again? Like, this is a very real issue. It's why so many of us that are influencers are looking into alternative ways to get the message out there. I will tell you right now, my team is currently working on deplatforming everything, and everything's going to go to jimmyrants.com. We're still trying to work out how you go live right there on our own server, and how you guys would come to the page. But I'm working on that actively because Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all three, have been doing some fluky things with my content and not letting certain things that I do be seen, and not notifications being gone, and changing the categories like they did over on Facebook. It's disturbing, and I hope it's disturbing to you. Let's see here. Facebook is a joke, says Shirley. Well, it's not just Facebook, all of them. Notices go to social. I don't know what that means, Harpsy. Shirley says, I think we should be able to appeal things like that Facebook deems as false news, like that doctor video. Well, that's the thing. Like, those group of doctors that were promoting hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and Zithromax, okay, let them say what they want to say. If they're wrong, then let's have the conversation. What's happening right now is, no, we're all waiting on a vaccine. That's the answer. Meanwhile, people are being hospitalized, people are going on ventilators, and people are dying. And if hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and Zithromax can prevent them from getting that far down the progression of COVID-19, don't we want to take a closer look at that? Or if there's issues with that protocol, don't we want to have those conversations of, okay, here's the problem with that protocol, this and this and this may happen, here's a study that corroborates it. No, the discussion is not even allowed. And to me, that's horrible in the United States of America. Freedom of speech means let people be heard. Again, not inciting violence, hate speech, or pornography. Get rid of all those things. Yes, everybody agrees on that. But just the difference of opinion or another perspective that runs counter to the mainstream is not reason enough for hiding that information. We are not okay with that, Johanna says, but we know what time you are online. Oh, talking about them shadow banning, yeah. Shirley says, when we stand up for the right to not be censored, we're called crybabies. Well, call me a crybaby, call me what you want, but you're being censored. Harpsy said they did pass some laws allowing internet companies more control over what we see and are able to see. And see, there's another one. Some people say, well, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, they're all private businesses, so they have the right to block content that they don't want, blah, blah, blah. Just, you have the right as a consumer to go shop elsewhere. Well, if they're going to play that game and they're going to play by a set of rules that says, oh, we're being above board and we allow all opinions, but they don't, people are going to bolt. And when they bolt, those companies are going to lose revenue, and they're going to figure out they made a very bad business decision. And that's where we are right now. People are getting fed up. I know people that left Facebook many years ago because this was already happening there. And Instagram has been decently good, but for the most part, lately, not so much. And it's made it a whole lot harder to get your message out if you are a content provider like myself. When we stand up for the right to not be sent. Okay, Shirley said that. All my new video notices show up on social category on Gmail, says Harpsy. It's what's happening when money is treated as number one. Well, and money being treated as number one in this COVID-19 thing, I think the reason the push for vaccines is here so strong is it's all about money. You can't make any money off of sunshine, hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and Zithamax. Peggy says, thanks for being here. Anna Culture turned me on to you. You're the real deal. Thank you for that. Harpsy says, the corporation interest and worry is more important than free speech when they control the internet. At the end of the day, we have to know these things are happening. And if you know they're happening, then your eyes are open to it. Then when the deleting, the censoring, the shadow banning all starts to happen, you're not left wondering what in the world happened to my favorite influencer. If suddenly somebody that you follow, you don't see their content, don't assume they've gone silent. I can promise you Jimmy Moore is not silent right now. I am speaking up on all kinds of issues. I still talk about the nutrition and health stuff, but I'm also talking about COVID-19 and some of the issues related to it. I'm also talking about the race relations and some of the issues related to it. I'm going across the board in all kinds of topics, and some of these topics they don't want people talking about. I was just interviewing Jason Carter, who is the Keto Apocalypse over here on Instagram. I was just interviewing him this morning, and he sent me a screenshot where Instagram blocked content and removed it, censored it. They didn't tell him what content. All it said was removed because of misinformation about COVID-19. And Jason said he hadn't written anything about COVID-19. Like, what are they doing? Like, he didn't say anything about vaccines. He didn't say anything about anything, but they blocked his content. They didn't even tell him what they removed. They just said, your post has been removed due to a violation of content related to COVID-19. He hasn't written about COVID-19. So something's going on, and they're using COVID-19 as cover. And maybe you'll notice this in your own work more and more. It was very free in the beginning because there was little profit, says Harpsy. Yeah, they make a lot of money now. Zuckerberg is a billionaire because of Facebook. And it's okay. I'm all for people making money and providing content, but don't pretend like you're allowing free expression of ideas on your platform, which Zuckerberg and Facebook own. Facebook and Instagram are both owned by Facebook. And so, yeah, they've made money off this. Why would you mess with this? Maybe he's made enough money. He's like, okay, now let's go let our voice be heard of what we want people to hear. It's so sad, you guys, and I hope this isn't the norm moving forward, but if it is, watch a bunch of us start to deplatform. I know Dr. Sean Baker has created the Meet RX website. I know Rob Wolf has Healthy Rebellion website. There's a lot of us in this space, and if you didn't hear earlier, I'm working on trying to put everything on jimmyrants.com so that all of it could be there. We can't trust Facebook, Instagram, YouTube anymore. They have found themselves to be quite untrustworthy. And if they're going to keep up these tactics, then those of us that make content will have little choice than to go elsewhere. So the only hope is that you guys that watch and engage will follow us to our new platforms. Now, will there be some kind of a centralized one? Maybe at some point. And so maybe there will be a Meet RX part of one of the platforms and a Healthy Rebellion part of another platform and a Jimmy Rants part of the platform. Maybe we can get some undeveloped platform that would be like all of these social media channels, and yet there would be channels for each of us that make content without the worry of there being censorship. This is where it's heading, you guys. They're giving us no other choice. And it's discouraging as a content provider because you want to reach people and you want to provide information and you want to share. Like, listen, you wouldn't be watching me right now if you weren't interested in at least my perspective. Whether you agree with me or not is irrelevant. Agreeing with me does not matter when it comes to the content. Hearing the content and then contemplating it and seeing what you think about that content as it applies to your own life and your own situation, that's what information is about. Like if I say, go jump on top of a cow, it'll help lower your blood sugar, you're going to hear the information and say, okay, that sounds kind of crazy, but I might try it just to see You see what I'm saying? It's like, let people have that personal decision and responsibility for what they do. It's just crazy that they want to take that away from people. I've seen a couple of people go over to LBRY. It's pretty new, so they have some things to work out, but they claim they won't censor. Yeah, there's a lot of new ones coming up. I know a bunch of new kind of, there's a Twitter alternative now. Parler, I believe is what it's called. I got on Parler, and the first thing I noticed was how lame-o it was. So it's like, okay, they're okay, and I'm there, and I'm have a presence there, but it's not the same. So if they're going to kind of come up with alternatives, they need to at least come somewhat close to the professionalism of Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Now, obviously, they've been around for many years. They've been able to sophisticate the technology, but yeah, Parler was not quite what I was expecting it to be. Then you've got alternatives to YouTube like BitChute, BITCHUTE. And a lot of the banned videos, including those doctors, is over there right now if you want to go look at things. But the problem is the mainstream public knows Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. It's what they know. And so how do you get people to go to these new things when the quality is not quite the same? You want that experience to be a pleasant one, and right now it's just not. You are a man deep of variety insight. Thank you, Darlene. Still, the internet providers will control to favor profit in their opinion. Well, Harpsy, that's true. I wish the world wasn't revolving around money, but in every aspect of our life, it's all about the money. Follow the money. Even healthcare, people think, I go see my doctor, he's there to help me be well. No, he's not. He's there to keep you just well enough, but still sick, so you'll keep coming back and then keep making money off of you. It's such a jaded position to say that, but that is pretty much how healthcare, or as I like to refer to it, sick care, is built. We have all these patients that go into the clinic. People think, okay, I'm going to see my doctor. He's going to make me healthy. No, he gives you a drug that could hide some symptoms of bad nutrition and lifestyle choices and keep you alive just enough so you'll be back in 6 months from then. And again, your progression of disease is worse. Oh, we need to add more drug, and now you need a procedure, and it just never ends. If all they did, though, was say, eat a real food-based, nutrient-dense diet centered around animal-based foods, and get lots of sunshine, sleep well, de-stress, and move a little, they would be out of business in terms of the current business model, which means they need to change their business model. But they're not telling you that. Same with these social media companies. They're not telling you that they're hiding certain content from you, and that some of your favorite influencers, you're not always seeing all their content. You're just not. And it's sad. They shouldn't be able to do that, but at the end of the day, they are independent companies. They have the right to do their business the way they want to do their business. I see my friend Kelly Hogan just came in over here. Kelly, I agree with your point earlier you posted on my Instagram page. They are a business that they have the right to run their business the way they want to run it. Totally agree with you there. But don't pretend like in an interview that you're above board and you allow all voices to be heard when it's very clear you are muting some voices and amplifying other ones. And so at least have ethics about it. At least say, you know what, we're going to mute people if we disagree with their opinion, which is basically what they're doing. And if you have that knowledge and you realize they're doing that, then you can make the choice to leave them and go to another platform. So did not disagree with you on that one. So true about the doctor's statement. I went to the vascular doctor. The procedure was a stent. Now I'm experiencing lymphatic edema, money, money, money. Yeah, if they can keep you as a customer, they keep you sick enough. They make you well enough, but they keep you sick still so that you have to keep coming back in. Can you imagine if a doctor put you on a real foods-based diet, told you to get lots of sunshine, told you to move a little bit, told you to take these vitamins and things where you're deficient and get your body in a good tip-top shape and de-stress. Could you imagine? You don't go back and see the doctor. Like, I literally have not seen a mainstream doctor other than that little bout I had with my ankle situation about 2 months ago. I went to a little ER clinic up here. But other than that, I've not seen a doctor in years. Because when you're well, you don't have to go to the mainstream medical system. You just don't. And that's where we need to be. But the way the system is set up now, they keep you just well enough through medications and procedures, but still sick that you keep coming back and you keep coming back and you keep coming back. It's a sick system, literally. Judy says when they hide content, they have become publishers and should not be protected from lawsuits. Well, I hear you, Judy, and I agree. From a principled standpoint, it's bad business to block some content and allow others. Because again, I come back to the question, who gets to decide what appropriate content is? Who gets to decide what's right and what's wrong? Who makes those decisions? Is it the ideological bent of the person who is in charge of that? If it is, it's horrible business practices. And yet they're doing it every single day. All right, guys, I did not plan on doing kind of an extended rant on that, but go back and watch the beginning if you came in late, how your heart influences what you perceive and fear. It's pretty fascinating research out there. But since I had extra time, I had to get this off my chest. Kat says, in ancient China, doctors used to get paid while the patient stayed healthy. If a patient gets sick, there's no reward. And I wish we could go back to that again, Kat. Like, there is no benefit to the doctors, all these keto doctors and carnivore doctors that are out there. There is no benefit for them making and keeping their patients well. To me, it's about outcomes, and it's not about numbers. Like they want, your cholesterol, we got to get it below 200. And so you arbitrarily put somebody on a statin medication and artificially lower their cholesterol below 200. They get perks for that. Oh, good job. And if they don't get a compliant patient, then they get dinged, and then they don't like the patient. They could fire the patient. I love that old ancient Chinese doctors getting paid when their patients are well. And you would think the insurance companies would be on board with that, because how many claims do they pay out when they could be encouraging people to have healthy behaviors, taking that money and rewarding the doctors for keeping that patient healthy, even reward the patient and say, oh, you know what? You haven't been to the doctor. You've been well enough. Here is a bonus, a health bonus that you got at the end of the year because you were healthy. Like, to me, those are like incentives that would motivate people to want to be healthy. Right now, the only motivation out there is the doctors getting lavish trips and everything from the pharmaceutical companies because they prescribe a medication that the patient probably doesn't need at the end of the day. There's probably a small percentage of patients that do need some of those medications, but like statins, for example, are way overprescribed, all at the holy altar of lowering a number on your panel, your cholesterol. That's irrelevant at the end of the day. Your total cholesterol doesn't really tell you a whole lot about your health. All right, you guys, let me get out of here for now. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, you can engage live in the content. You got to go follow me right here on Instagram. Unfollow and refollow if you want to get the notifications. So do that. LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you are there on Instagram, you can follow me Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on IG Live. So check us out. We also simulcast over here on my Facebook page as well as over on my YouTube channel. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you miss the live, you can watch it on replay on IGTV, on Instagram. You can also watch the replay over at YouTube. Just type in the keyword Jimmy Rants. You'll find the show. And finally, go check out JimmyRants.com. It's the official website for this show, and it might be the future home of how we originate this show in the future. So go check out JimmyRants.com for all the past episodes. And if you like what I do here and you like my rants, even the impromptu rants that I didn't mean to talk about, but they come out of my mouth anyway, if you like these things, then go and support my work over on the link with the Patreon link. Click on that, and any donation of any amount would be greatly appreciated. All right, guys, let me get out of here for now. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for Ask Me Anything. See ya.